The room fell silent as Princess Anne stepped forward, a weathered red velvet box clutched in her hands. Inside lay a tiara heavy with royal history, its diamonds catching the light of Charlotte's quiet birthday gathering. But this was no mere gift. With a single gesture, the Princess Royal ignited a firestorm that would expose the monarchy's deepest fault lines. Her demand for Camilla's isolation sent shockwaves through the palace, leaving one question hanging in the air. Was this a calculated power move, or the final act in a decades-old family war? Before we uncover what really happened, tell us in the comments, what do you think is the biggest misunderstanding about this story? The red velvet box was old, its corners worn smooth by decades of handling. When Princess Anne carried it into the room, the atmosphere shifted, and not just because of the diamonds inside. This was no ordinary tiara. This was the Cartier Halo Tiara, purchased by King George VI for his wife, the Queen Mother, in 1936. It had been an 18th birthday gift to the future Queen Elizabeth II. Princess Margaret had worn it. Princess Anne herself had worn it at 17, a full year before tradition would have permitted, breaking royal protocol in a move that stunned courtiers at the time. And now, it was being offered to Charlotte at just 10 years old. The gesture was loaded with meaning. Under royal tradition, tiaras are reserved for married women or those born princesses. Charlotte, as the daughter of a future king, qualifies by birthright. But wearing a tiara before adulthood is almost unheard of in modern times. Princess Anne's decision to present one now was not simply a gift, it was a statement. A declaration that Charlotte is not merely a child in the wings, but an heir in her own right, entitled to the full weight of royal tradition. For Anne, this moment was personal in ways few could fully grasp. She had made the opposite choice for her own children, Zara Tindall and Peter Phillips, refusing royal titles on their behalf. I think most people would argue that there are downsides to having titles, and once reflected. So I think that was probably the right thing to do. Now, more than 40 years later, she was bestowing a symbol of royal power upon her great niece. To those watching, the message was unmistakable. The Princess Royal was choosing her side. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe so you never miss our next documentary. But why Charlotte? And why now? The timing was far from accidental. Queen Camilla has long been a polarizing figure within the palace walls, and Anne's feelings toward her sister-in-law have been described as frosty for decades. The two women share a tangled history involving the same man, Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's ex-husband, with whom Anne had a romantic relationship in the 1970s. But this isn't merely a story of old heartbreak. This is about power, legacy, and who will shape the monarchy's future once King Charles is gone. What happened next surprised even those closest to them, as the gift set into motion a chain of events no one anticipated. To understand why a tiara could become a weapon, you have to go back to the spring of 1970. A young Princess Anne, just 19, met a dashing guards officer named Andrew Parker Bowles at Royal Lodge, the Queen Mother's Windsor home. He was 29, sophisticated, athletic, everything a princess might find dangerously compelling. They bonded over horses and began dating. Anne was reportedly smitten. But a 300-year-old law made their future impossible. The Act of Settlement 1701 barred Catholics from marrying royals in the line of succession, and Andrew's devout Catholic faith meant marriage was simply out of the question. What happened next is where the story curdles into a strange, tangled triangle. While Anne was dating Andrew was also involved on and off with a young woman named Camilla'sISOLATION. When Andrew's posting to Germany caused his romance with Anne to fizzle, he reunited with Camilla. They married in 1973. Anne, heartbroken, threw herself into a rebound marriage with Captain Mark Phillips the same year, a union that would end in spectacular failure 2 decades later. But here's where the revenge narrative takes hold. Many believe Camilla's pursuit of Prince Charles was, at least in part, retaliation. If Andrew was going to be involved with the Queen's daughter, she would involve herself with the Queen's son. It was a power play worthy of a Netflix drama, and it worked. Charles fell madly in love with Camilla, setting the stage for decades of scandal. Yet through it all, Anne and Andrew remained close, so close, in fact, that he became godfather to her daughter Zara. And to this day, he remains one of Anne's dearest friends. But the same could not be said for Camilla. When Camilla finally married Charles in 2005, the frost between the two women was immediate and bitter. It is said that Anne gave her new sister-in-law the cold shoulder, finding her frosty demeanor difficult and somewhat unnerving to cope with. More significantly, a document was reportedly drawn up stating that Princess Anne would never have to curtsy to Camilla. Princess Anne, in particular, was extremely chilly and made it clear she had no intention of doing so ever. But it wasn't just about the past. At the heart of the tension was Anne's brutal prediction. Camilla would never be a true queen, and was, for many years, opposed to the very idea of Camilla being granted the title of queen consort. For a princess born into the monarchy, whose entire life has been duty and service, watching her brother elevate a woman from such a complicated past felt like a betrayal of everything the institution stood for. And now, with Charles's health declining, that unresolved tension is about to explode. Behind the scenes, another chapter was quietly unfolding, one that would determine not just who rules, but what the monarchy would become. The gift of the tiara was never just about diamonds and platinum. For those who understand the royal family's intricate web of inheritance and legacy, Princess Anne's gesture carried a far deeper meaning, one that reaches back through generations and points directly toward a future that may be slipping away from Camilla's grasp. Because the tiara Anne presented wasn't simply a piece of jewelry. It was a warning, a declaration that the monarchy's future belongs to bloodlines older and more revered than the woman who now sits beside the king. When Princess Anne gifted the Cartier halo tiara to Charlotte, she was invoking a tradition that predates even her own grandmother. The tiara had been purchased by King George VI for his wife, the Queen Mother, in 1936. It had passed to Queen Elizabeth II on her 18th birthday. Princess Anne herself had worn it at 17, a full year before tradition would have permitted, breaking royal protocol in a move that stunned courtiers. Now it was being offered to Charlotte at just 10 years old. The message was unmistakable. This child is the future. Not Camilla, not the consort, the blood heir. But there's another inheritance at stake here, one that cuts even closer to the bone for those who remember the princess who should have been queen. Charlotte is, after all, the granddaughter of Diana, Princess of Wales. And the Spencer family legacy is one that Camilla has never been able to escape. In the years following Diana's death, the Spencer tiara, a stunning diamond and pearl creation that Diana wore on her wedding day, became a symbol of everything Camilla could never truly claim. Reports have suggested that many royal watchers hope Charlotte will one day choose the Spencer tiara for her own debut, a tribute to the grandmother she never knew and a quiet rebuke to the woman many still blame for the destruction of Diana's marriage. This is the subtext of Anne's gift. By bestowing her own grandmother's tiara upon Charlotte, Anne was signaling that the princess royal line, the bloodline, remains untouched by the controversy that has surrounded Camilla for decades. Charlotte is not merely a child. She is the embodiment of a continuity that Camilla cannot interrupt. Anne's choice to honor her now, so publicly, was a reminder that the monarchy's future lies with William's children, not with Charles's wife. If this story surprised you, share it with someone who would enjoy uncovering forgotten royal stories. The symbolism is impossible to ignore. When Kate Middleton first appeared publicly in a tiara on her wedding day, she wore the Cartier halo tiara, loaned by the Queen. Now, Anne has offered the same piece to Charlotte, potentially before her wedding day. It's a deliberate echo of Kate's entrance into the royal family, but with a crucial difference. Charlotte is already a princess by birth. She doesn't need the institution to validate her. The institution needs her. Anne knows it. But what Charlotte represents is even more significant than a piece of jewelry. She holds the future of the princess royal title itself. Currently held by Anne, the title is traditionally bestowed on the eldest daughter of the monarch and remains for life. Princess Charlotte will only inherit it after Anne's passing. Until then, Anne is the guardian of that legacy. And with her gift, she has made it clear that she is passing something far greater than a tiara to Charlotte. She is passing the mantle of responsibility, duty, and unshakable royal identity that Camilla has never truly possessed. What happened next would force the royal family to confront a question they had long avoided. Who truly holds power in this monarchy, and who will be left standing when the dust settles? The tiara ceremony at Charlotte's birthday was not the first time Princess Anne had drawn a line in the sand where Camilla was concerned. In fact, The Princess Royal had been drawing that line for decades, long before Charles and Camilla ever made their relationship official. And at the heart of this enduring tension lies a brutal prediction that Anne reportedly made years ago, one that Camilla has never quite been able to forget. According to royal expert Angela Levin, writing in her biography of Camilla, Anne was for many years opposed to the idea of Camilla being granted the title of Queen Consort. More damning still, Levin claims and once made a stark prediction that has haunted Camilla ever since. Camilla will never be a true queen. Those words carried weight not just because of who spoke them, but because of who Anne represents. She is not merely Charles's younger sister. She is the embodiment of the monarchy's bloodline, a princess born into the institution who has served it without scandal for over half a century. When Anne speaks, the palace listens. And when Anne makes a prediction about someone's place in the royal hierarchy, it carries an authority that no consort can match. The warning went even deeper than a single sentence. According to royal biographers, Anne made it abundantly clear that her allegiance was not to Camilla, but to the institution itself and to the next generation of royals who would carry it forward. In the years following Charles and Camilla's 2005 wedding, a document was reportedly drawn up at Queen Elizabeth II's behest stating that Princess Anne and Princess Alexandra would never have to curtsy to Camilla. A former courtier confirmed. This was done at the behest of Princess Anne and Princess Alexandra, who saw no reason to make obeisance to this highly unpopular woman. Princess Anne, in particular, was extremely chilly towards Camilla and made it clear she had no intention of curtsying to her ever. It was the ultimate insult wrapped in royal protocol. Camilla was now the wife of the heir to the throne, soon to be queen, yet Anne would not bow. Not now. Not ever. What gave Anne such confidence to defy convention? The answer lies in her unshakable position within the royal bloodline. As the daughter of a sovereign, sister of a sovereign, and one of the most respected working royals in modern history, Anne occupies a space that Camilla, a divorcee who entered the family under a cloud of scandal, could never claim. Body language experts have studied the interactions between the two women over the years, noting Anne's consistent if subtle attempts to assert dominance. At one appearance in June 2005, just 2 months after the wedding, the Princess Royal was captured in a photograph that spoke volumes. Expert Judy James observed that and stood closer to her brother, Charles, raising her arm so that her elbow formed a barrier gesture that appeared to push Camilla out of the small group. Both Charles and Anne, James noted, looked grim-faced rather than sociable. This was not mere sibling protectiveness. This was a message, and the message was clear. You may have married my brother, but you will never be one of us. But Anne's warning was not only about the past. It was about the future and the moment when Charles would no longer be there to shield Camilla. If this story surprised you, share it with someone who would enjoy uncovering forgotten royal stories. Reports have long suggested that King Charles is the primary and perhaps only protector Camilla has within the royal family. Without him, royal observers believe, Camilla would find herself increasingly isolated, with limited backing from the senior Windsors who tolerate her only because she is the wife of the reigning monarch. Anne, by contrast, has positioned herself firmly alongside William and his children, the future of the monarchy. The tiara she gave to Charlotte was not just a family heirloom. It was a declaration of where her loyalty lies when the current king is no longer on the throne. Camilla may have won the man, but Anne is playing a longer game, one that will determine who truly holds power in the monarchy for decades to come. And what was about to happen next would force Camilla to confront the most uncomfortable question of all. What happens when the king is gone, and the woman called a true queen is the only one left without a seat at the table? The tiara was never the story. It was the opening move. Behind the scenes, something far more significant was unfolding, a quiet recalibration of power that would determine the monarchy's future for decades to come. And at its center stood Princess Anne, the woman who had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. For all the drama surrounding the Cartier halo tiara, the real war was being waged in the corridors of Buckingham Palace, where loyalties were being tested and alliances quietly forged. Because the gift to Charlotte wasn't just about honoring a child. It was about signaling where Anne's allegiance truly lies when her brother is no longer on the throne. Reports have long suggested that King Charles is the primary and perhaps only protector Camilla has within the royal family. Without him, royal observers believe, the queen consort would find herself increasingly isolated. Anne, by contrast, has positioned herself firmly alongside William and his children, the future of the monarchy. And Charlotte, as the daughter of the heir to the throne, represents the continuity that Camilla simply cannot claim. If you enjoyed this documentary, like the video and subscribe for more true celebrity stories every week. The implications are staggering. When Charles is gone, William will ascend, and the line of succession places his children next, not Camilla. Charlotte, as the future Princess Royal, will eventually inherit Anne's title and responsibilities. She will become the senior female royal of her generation, the woman upon whom the monarchy's future rests. Anne, by bestowing her own grandmother's tiara upon her, was effectively saying, "The bloodline endures. The tradition continues, and the woman who sits beside my brother will fade into history." But Anne's relationship with Camilla has evolved in ways that complicate this narrative. In recent years, the two women have reportedly grown closer, with Anne praising Camilla's sense of duty and describing her as incredibly generous and understanding. In November 2024, Anne even presented Camilla with an honorary doctorate of literature, calling her efforts to promote adult literacy exceptional. The image of Camilla kneeling before Chancellor and to receive her degree was a powerful symbol, and not just of academic achievement. Some have interpreted this thawing as genuine reconciliation, but others see it as strategic, a calculated move to appear unified while securing the future for William and his children. Because Anne has never been one to let personal feelings cloud her judgment. She is, above all, a guardian of the institution, and she understands that the monarchy's survival depends on stability, not sentiment. And yet, the question remains, what happens when the king is no longer there to shield Camilla from the frost that once defined her relationship with Anne? The tiara was a gift, yes, but it was also a warning, a reminder that in this family, blood will always triumph over marriage, and that the Princess Royal has not forgotten who she truly serves or who she expects Charlotte to become. What happens to Camilla then?